Hey guys, it's Michelle, and today is Monday, October 9th, 2017. So I wanted to record. I've actually recorded a couple of different segments over the past week and a half, and I just decided, I just couldn't keep straight what I was doing and what I talked about and what I didn't talk about, so I just thought, I'm just going to do a sit-down video, and I'll just cover everything I can remember all at one time. So, okay, so welcome to Dark October. And if this is your first time watching my videos, thank you for tuning in. You can find me on Instagram, Flickr, Pinterest, Twitter, all of the places as Cozyegg, on Ravelry as Cozyegg. You can find my blog at cozyegg.cozyeggdesigns.com. You can also get to my other two sites from there. If you just go to cozyyeggdesigns.com, you can get to my other two sites from that. And yeah. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. Thank you so much for subscribing and commenting and all that good stuff. I really, really appreciate it. So let's dig in, shall we? So when last we left our heroine, she was sitting on the floor rifling through all of her Dark October charts and trying to figure out what she was going to stitch through the month of October. So let me tell you what's happened since then. I was working on Salem Remembered, and you may remember that that I was working on that as part of a stitch along that was suggested by Sim on Facebook, kind of at the end of last year actually, and suggested that we stitch on a Salem related piece starting in, I think it was June 10th was when we started, which is it was the 325th anniversary of the Salem witch trials. And so I chose to stitch on Salem Remembered, which is a piece by the Primitive Needle, which is obviously, unfortunately, out of print. But there is a fantastic chart that was just released that is similar, but I really like the additions to it. There are some great images on that piece that was just released by the Primitive Hair. So go and check that out. But it's got it's got the names of the folks just like Salem Remembered does. But then it's got some really great images. So I may decide to stitch kind of a companion piece to Salem Remembered. But anyway, off topic. Well, not really off topic. Whatever. It's my video, so it's all on topic. So I have been working to, I started on June 10th, and as you know, the calendar progressed, I have been trying to stitch each of the accused names on the date, on or before the date that they were put to death, so that I could kind of follow along throughout, that time period, June through September. Excuse me. And just kind of take a moment while I'm stitching each of their names and reflect on them and, what happened, etc. So the last few names that I had to stitch was Giles Corey, who was not hanged. He was actually pressed to death. And if you'd like more information about the Salem witch trials and on some of the specific folks, I will link to an article. There are tons of articles out there, and a couple of folks have recommended some books to me, which I'm anxious to take a look at. So anyway, but if you want more info, I'll try to link to something, but there's also tons of stuff out there. So Giles Corey was pressed to death, and so his date was September 19th. But then the next set of names was for September 21st, but it was, I think, like 10 or 12 names. So I did not quite make my September 21st date, but I was close. And, you know, I still did have the time that I could reflect on who they were and what happened to them. So I worked on that. I actually did go on a little weekend getaway with some friends, and so I took Salem Remembered with me so that I could work on it, because I really wanted to get the names stitched. And that's kind of the only thing that I worked on the whole weekend. I brought Mystery 9, I brought some other things, but I pretty much focused on Salem Remembered. And then when I got home, I just kept working on it, because I really, you know, at that point I had all of the names stitched. I really just wanted to see if I could get the piece finished before the end of September. I didn't quite make it, but I did manage to finish it on the 2nd. So those first couple of days of Dark October, I was still working on my Salem Remembered piece, but it was important to me to go ahead and finish it. So I was going to show you the piece in its completeness. So there it is. And I just love this piece. I really do. I love the simplicity of it. I love the impact of the list of names. And when you think about the number of names that are on this list, it's quite chilling, I think. So I have not even posted photos of this up on Instagram or anything, or in the Facebook group. So you're kind of the first to see the finish. So a couple of things of note. I did use my own colors because I did not have the called for threads. So I just, you know, basically picked 4 that I liked, 4 or 5 that I liked. I did the outside and the 1692 and the angels and all the little motifs on the side. I did that in Belsois moss. The names are all done in Belsois chestnut, and the red that I used is, I think, Belsois Red Fox. Inside the stars, you can see there's a little square of orange. I used a Gloriana, I don't remember what it was. It was like dark autumn gold or something along those lines. I'll have to look. And then the green that I used was actually the called for color, and it is Silken Colors Tuscan Olive. So similar colors to what was called for, but a little bit my own spin on it because I was just going from stash. So the other thing to note is Samuel Wardwell is actually misspelled on the chart itself. I believe it says Wardell, so the W is missing. And a fellow stitcher, Judy, had recharted it to be the correct spelling, and sent that over to me so that I could stitch that appropriately, because obviously being so long, your spacing had to be adjusted. So thank you, Judy, for doing that. And then you may notice that up at the top, Susanna Martin's name is in red, and that is because Susanna is my ancestor, and I wanted to do something to signify her importance to me, so I did her name in red. And this is stitched on 40 count. I'm 99% sure that this is a Lakeside linen, but I don't know what color. If I had to take a wild guess, I would say it's probably vintage exemplar or light exemplar, but it is Lakeside, I can tell just by the feel of it. So finish, and I was pleased that I was able to participate in that, and it's one of the pieces that I've wanted to stitch for a long time. I hadn't had the right opportunity present itself, which it did, so I'm really thankful for that. So I will be posting photos of that soon, but you guys get the first peek. And other than my Guild, because I did take it to Guild and show. But anyway, other than the people at Guild, you're the only ones that have seen it finished. So the other piece, let me just kind of go chronologically, because then I don't know, maybe it makes more sense, maybe it doesn't. So since I was working on that the 1st and the 2nd of October, it kind of pushed my Dark October plans a little bit. And so then I was kind of playing catch up, sort of, and rearranging a little bit. So, and I had another issue, which I'll explain in a minute. But let me show you the other stuff that I worked on, and then I'll show you my other thing here I have to show you. So after I finished, this is in my Alice bag, from Stitch All the Things that I got from down Sunshine Lane. So after I finished that, I did get out my Moon Phases piece to work on. And this was my solar eclipse start with Carissa. So, and I worked on this one night, really enjoyed it. I love this piece so much. And this fabric is looking a little purple on the screen. It is actually blue, but it is a stunningly gorgeous, gorgeous piece of fabric. So it is Hand Dyed Fabrics by Stephanie. This is my very first piece of her fabric, and I think this is 32 count Midnight Tryst. And then there is my little bitty start. And so this pattern by the Little Stitcher is, it's called Moon Phases, and she gives you, it's basically 2 different charts. So you can do the full moon chart, or you can do the new moon chart. And so I decided that because I was doing it in honor of the eclipse, I would do the new moon chart. And so the center lady is in black, whereas with the full moon chart, she's in white. Well, I say black or white because I changed all my colors, which I think I showed you guys. So I am instead using Gentle Arts Soot and Weeks something mascara, Weeks mascara, Gast Picket Fence which I thought was pretty because it has kind of a bluish gray cast to it, so it's not quite white. And then there's a couple of spots in here that have back stitch, so I thought I would throw in some Petite Treasure braid in this silver. And then there are some beads in here too, so that's what I'm using, and I love it. So then I decided, okay, what did I just draw? Oh. It's the, you know what, the little thing that goes in the wall socket, the little protector thingy, so that your cats don't electrocute themselves. This thing, that's what I draw, because I have my light plugged in. Okay, so I worked on that, and then I decided, why work on any of the pieces that I just so diligently walked through and picked up and decided on? I'm gonna start something completely different, because I'm crazy like that. So I decided to start Hallo Eden by Plum Street Samplers, and I don't think I have a picture of it with me. No, so I will insert a photo here. So, Hallo Eden. I'm using this fantastic piece of fabric that is kind of a bluish purpley, it's not quite that purpley gray color. It's just sort of a fantastic piece of fabric. And this was actually dyed by a friend of mine. She had several pieces kind of like this that she, you know, handed to me and said, here you go if you want these. And so I've been trying, it's looking a little worse for wear on the edges, but this is what happens when you don't serge. Just say no to not serging. Anyway, it's been sitting there waiting for something fabulous to be stitched on it, so I thought I am going to stitch Hallo Eden. And so I wanted to get down to, like, the whole top half is alphabet, but then it's like an Adam and Eve, and there's snakes and, you know, things like that, Halloween-y stuff. And so at the bottom of the S, where it kind of curly cues around, there is a long snake that is at the end of that. So I was trying to kind of stitch down to that, but in a couple of days, that's as far as I got. And I'm using one of my needle minders that my sweet friend sent me that I could use as needle minders, or I could use as creepy portraits in my haunted dollhouse. So I'm using that needle minder, so thank you. And the secret about this fabric, so here I have Hallo Eden. Here is my test stitch for Dutch Beauty. So there's the part, there's the top of my black swan where I was test stitching to see how dark I could go on my fabric and still have my black swan show up. So yeah, I'll probably pull that out, but it's on the other half of this. So anyway, little secret. So I worked on Hallo Eden for a couple of days, and then I thought, okay, enough lollygagging. I need to work on something that was actually in my plan. Oh, and I ironed this and everything, and I just totally crunched it. So the next thing that I got out, this is kind of the state of affairs, is I just have crap just all craziness. I decided I would work on Halloween Garden. So this is another primitive needle piece also out of print, sorry. And this is a piece that when she released it, it came with this little bag, and the fabric was in this little sweet bag. So you get the fabric and the chart. And I think she had a couple of choices. You could get like 30 count or 35 count. So I went with the 35 count. And the fabric was Putty by Weeks Dye Works. And then it called for all Weeks threads. So there it is. This was actually a dark October start for me last year. Well, technically, prior to dark October, it was a JTT piece. Then it became a start. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and look. Just saying. Okay, so I picked this up, and my plan was I was going to work on it 2 days. So I picked it up to work on Friday night, and I worked on it Friday night, Saturday. And then I kind of thought, you know, I'm getting so close to a finish, I'm just going to keep going. So I did. So I finished it like literally like an hour ago. And then I was like, okay, record. So here is my finish, and it's such a cute little piece that I can't even manage to handle. So I just love it. I just think it's such a fun little piece. And so I made a couple of changes because I'm me. So as you can see on this, she uses this orange, which is Weeks Carrot, and I know that's probably a little blurry, but she had the 3 orange letters lined up, which kind of bugged me. So I spaced mine out. So I had to rearrange some of the other colors in order to do that, but I like how that turned out better with them spaced out a little bit. And I was doing 1/2 on 35 count. I don't really like to stitch on 35 count or 36 count because I'm all about good coverage on my pieces. And on 36 count, I feel like I'm always kind of in that in between. Like 1 thread over 2 is not enough. 2 over 2 is too much. And it makes me a little crazy. So I don't like to stitch on 36 count fabric. That's why I go to 40. So I like things clean cut. But for 35 count, I did the whole thing 1/2, and I was very happy with how that was showing up until I got down to those 2 white pumpkins down at the bottom. And then I was like, yeah, no. So I did the white on the pumpkins 2/2 because I really wanted them to stand out, and I'm happy with how they look. And the owl, his little feet and his eyes and his beak were done in Moon Glow, which is this really pretty yellowy color. But it just, you couldn't really see it, and especially because it was just like 1 stitch. So I did those 2/2 as well. And then down here at the bottom, there is this little frog, and I did his eyes 2/2, and they were also in that Moon Glow. So everything else was 1/1, but then when I got to the witch, her skin is supposed to be that same white color, that parchment or whatever it is. And I was like, well, I don't want to do it 2/2 because then it's going to be white. Whereas I wanted the pumpkins to be white because I love white pumpkins. But so I thought I'd get smart and, you know, outsmart the designer. And so I pulled a slightly darker color and thought, yeah, I'll just use that so it doesn't look quite white. It looked terrible. So I ripped that back out, and then I started to do her face 2/2, and that looked terrible with the parchment. That looked terrible, so I pulled that out and ended up doing it 1/2, like it's charted. It looks great. So sometimes I just have to do some trial and error to determine that, yes, the designer knows what they're doing. So that's my first Dark October finish, technically Dark October finish, and I'm super happy with it. I love how it turned out. So I'm happy to have that little piece done. So let me show you. Okay, so that's it for the finishes. That's all I got. So I'm gonna show you just more kind of Dark October stuff. I went through all of it in my last video, so I'm not gonna do kind of a rehash of that. But I had a few pieces. Obviously I added in Hallo Eden. That was not in the plan. I have another piece that I added in also that was not in the plan. And I had a few pieces that I was trying to figure out fabric for, so I thought I would share that with you. I do have one piece that I have not found fabric for, so I may have to nix it. I hope I don't, but I don't have anything on hand is really what it comes down to. So, and it's the dark alphabet. I just don't have anything that, even doing it 1/1, I don't have anything that's long enough that I can use for it that would not like make me a blind person. So I went looking for fabric. So one of the pieces I needed fabric for was Jack's Bash, which I love. And I found this piece of fabric in my stash. It is a Lakeside. It is a 40 count. I don't know where I got all these freaking random pieces of 40 count that are floating around. I'm sure they were intended for something, but who knows what that is. Someday I may go to start something and be like, oh crap, I already used that. But that someday is not today. I think that this was the fabric for A Most Noble Pursuit. I think. Man, my nose is red. Anyway, allergies are kicking me. I think this is Vintage Light Exemplar. Lakeside. You know it's Lakeside. I mean, you can just tell by feeling it, it's Lakeside. And 40 count. So, Jack's Bash is going on that. This is just sort of a blah piece of fabric, but I think it'll be fine. Because there's so much going on in this piece that I just kind of felt like anything much more than this was just going to be too much. So I figured that out. So I just have to pull my threads, and then that one is ready to start whenever I figure out when I'm going to start it. I showed you my Ouija board fabric, so I've got that. I showed you my Moon Garden fabric. Moon Garden, this one, Blackbird Designs. I have none of these threads. Well, I have one of these threads. I have avocado. I don't have any of the other threads, so that one may get pushed off, but I do have fabric for it. Okay. So when I was looking for fabric, I found a couple of pieces that I thought, I don't like them as is, but I could dye those suckers. So that's what I've been doing. So if you saw on my post on Instagram a few days ago, and then actually I posted up the finals today, I dyed some pieces of fabric, so for some of my pieces that I'm going to work on. So let me show you those. So the first piece that I needed fabric for was this, the Halloween fairy, Mirabilia, Nora Corbett, whoever. So I have all the threads for it, I have the beads for it, but I needed fabric. And I was not going to do it on this natural raw linen, blah, no. Emily dyed her fabric, Eclectic Possessions, dyed her fabric for it, and hers is like this fantastic kind of gray, brown, dark, lovely. And she started hers, I think, last October. But I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I think I mentioned in my video that I saw Annette's Acre, I saw her Halloween fairy done on a purple fabric, and I just thought it was breathtaking. And I am not a purple person by any stretch. I'm not a purple girl, but when I saw it on that fabric, I just thought, especially like the wings, which are that bright green, just pop on that fabric. So, and I think she said that it was French lilac. Picture this plus. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna get me some purple fabric. So I was digging around. It calls for 32 count, so my bead should fit. And I came across this piece, which you may remember from my whip parade. So this is a Mary Englebright, aka Confetti and Backstitches from Hell, piece that I started and obviously didn't get real far on. It's super cute, but yeah, I may or may not ever get back to this. And why I started it and said, like, this is the bottom of the fabric. Why I started it in such a weird location, I have no idea. But anyway, so this fabric that it's on is Silk Weaver Poltergeist. And it's really pretty. Lavender, and this is old Silk Weaver. So it's a pretty piece of fabric, but not what I wanted for my Halloween fairy. But this was an 18 by 26 piece of fabric, so I just cut it off, chopped it off, and got some purple Rit dye. And bam! Look at that. Look how pretty that is. So so it started out as this, as Poltergeist. I overdyed it with purple liquid Rit dye, and then I overdyed it with pearl gray. I went on the Picture This Plus site, and also this is what happens when you don't serge your fabric, when you just cut it off another piece of fabric and just dunk it. I went to the Picture This Plus site to see what French lilac looks like, and it is a purple gray. Now, I think this is much brighter than French Lilac. I think French Lilac is probably closer to this, but I am super happy with how this came out. I think it's going to be stunning. So it took a couple days, 2-3 days, because the way that I dye my fabric, I basically follow Michelle Rudy's Farm Girls fabric dyeing tutorial. That's basically what I do. But I will put it in, dye it, you know, let it sit for a while, and then I will take it out, wring it out, and then I will hang it and let it dry. Because once it's dry, then I can actually see what color it is, because it lightens up, obviously, when it dries. And then I can tell, like, how much darker I want to go. Like, when I did my fabric for Dutch Beauty, I probably dyed that thing 5 or 7 times, because I went down in small steps, because I didn't want to get too dark too fast. So, when I first dyed this, it was like the bright purple, and then it had lots of light spots still in it. And I wanted to keep some of the lightness, but I wanted it to mostly be dark, because I wanted those colors to really kind of pop against that. So yeah, I think it's gonna be really pretty. I think it'll be good. Those colors. Yeah. So I'm excited to start on that. I think it'll be fun. I just have to figure out when. So that was my silk weaver. And then I don't have the chart with me because I don't know what I've done with the chart, but I also bought a Rit dye in wine because I needed a piece of fabric for my Dracula book cover. And I wasn't going to go red. I wanted to go a little more burgundy red. And then when I was digging through my fabric stash, look what I found. Now this looks way brighter on camera than it is. This is actually more of a blood red. So it's darker than this. This looks really, really, that's probably closer. So it's a blood red, which will be perfect for my Dracula book cover. This is part of some linen that Sylvia brought me from Germany. And this is, maybe it was not from Germany, maybe it's from France, but I think it's from Germany. But anyway, she brought me 4 pieces. One of the pieces I'm using for my Henry VIII, 6 Wives of Henry VIII. And then I have this red piece and I have a green piece, which I'm sure she thought would be fabulous for Christmas, but no, I'm gonna stitch Dracula on it. So, ready-made, ready to go. No dyeing necessary. But I have my wine dye for next time, because you know it's gonna come up again. So then the next piece I dyed, I had this piece of 32 count silk weaver. This is what happens when you're in the freaking fabric of the month. You have all these random pieces of fabric. Silk weaver beignet. And it was just a boring cream piece of fabric. I sold off a bunch of my silk weaver a long time ago. And I mostly sold off all the colored stuff and kept anything that I thought was kind of a neutral, because I figured I was much more likely to use that than anything else. Of course, here I am now with, I need red and I need purple. But I found this piece of fabric and I thought, what can I put on that? And I was actually looking at it for Jack's Bash, but I really kind of wanted Jack's Bash to be on 40 count so that it would be a little smaller. I didn't want to do it on 32, and I don't think it would fit. Well, no, it would probably fit on 32 count on this piece, but anyway. So then I thought, well, can I use dark alphabet on it? I could, but over 1 on 32 count just sounds like a whole lot of nope. So what else can I use with it? So here's the other piece that I did not intend to start, but am now probably going to start. This is Plum Street Samplers, Dead Man's Chess. And so what this is, if you have never seen it before, this is a chessboard. And it is basically full coverage. So the darker squares that are kind of a brownish tan there, that's the fabric. So all the gray, all the white, all the black, and the red is all stitched. And so the reason that I love this piece is because it has Susanna Martin's name on it. As, you know, one of the Salem people, my ancestor. And so it has some made up names on it, on the tombstones, on the top and on the sides, but then it also has Susanna Martin. So I felt like I just kind of had to stitch this, but so I needed a piece of fabric, and I didn't want to just do it on boring beignet fabric, so I overdyed it. And I just overdyed it with some tan Rit, just to give it a little bit of interest, because even though you are not going to see much of this at all, I figured it would be more interesting to look at if it was overdyed. So I've got a couple of spots that I may go back in and overdye, like this right here is a little weird. So I may go back and overdye that. It was probably just sitting funny. It also could be because this fabric's been folded up for so long that it may have just taken the dye weird right there. So, yeah. So I overdyed that. So it's, unless I decide to overdye it again, get a little more depth to those weird pieces. And I don't know if I'm even gonna bother, because you're not gonna see more than like that much of it at a time. So that'll be Dead Man's Chess, Silk Weaver Beignet. And then the last piece of fabric that I dyed is for Autumn on Lazy Bear Mountain. This was a piece of white fabric, and I believe it's 36 count. And this was actually one of the pieces that I was looking at for Dutch Beauty, but it wasn't, on 36 count, it wasn't quite big enough. So here it is. And I love how this turned out. Absolutely love how it turned out. So what I did with this is, like I said, it was white. It is a big old piece of fabric. It was white. I dyed it with tan Rit 2 or 3 times, and you know, I would do it, take it out, let it dry. I'd put a little more in to change the ratio, crumple it back up in a different way, put it back in, take it out, let it dry, all of that. And then the last dye that I did, I put some of the pearl gray in because I wanted some of that depth. So I'm so happy with how it came out. I just love it. Absolutely love it. Look at that. So good. So I hope it's not too dark. I don't think it is. I think it'll be good. But this is for Autumn on Lazy Bear Mountain. I don't know when I'm going to start that. Sometime this month. So I still need to pull thread and all of that business. So the only two things that I've not figured out yet are I don't have fabric for a dark alphabet. And I don't have fabric for Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow. This piece was it was a toss-up whether it was gonna be for Halloween or Lazy Bear. And it is just slightly too small at 36 count for Hawk Run. That was just, it was gonna be way too close to the margins, I think. So, Lazy Bear it is. So, I think those are kind of my updates on where I am with my dark October stitching and my crazy mad scientist fabric dyeing that I've been doing. And I showed you my finishes. So what else do I have to show you? I have a little bit of stash. Not a ton, but I have a little bit. So, where do I start? So, last month at Guild, at the Tudor Rose Guild, one of our members, who is a dear friend of mine, did a program on Jane Austen and on her sampler, and we talked a lot about it and about some some other related pieces, things like that. It was a really, really nice program. And so as a little giveaway for all of the members that were there that night, she made these little thread holders with Jane Austen's mug on them. And they are fantastic. I mean, so well done. I just love it. So, and I've stitched several of those Jane Austen pieces by the Sampler Girl. So I just love this. I can't wait to use it. I'm gonna have to find something perfect to use to put threads on for. But I just thought that was a really sweet thing to do for everybody, to give us these, the Jane Austen pieces. So thanks, Kim. So that was last month at Guild. I had a couple of things that I ordered a little while ago that took a little bit to come in because they were pre-orders basically. So one of them was, I love Sucra Miniatures and her pieces that she does for like little knitting stitch markers and stuff. So she, for the solar eclipse, and I love her cupcakes, for the solar eclipse, she was doing an eclipse cupcake, and I was like, gimme. So I ordered this, and it just recently came in. And I don't even take stuff out of the box, y'all. So when I get stuff, it sits in the box. I don't use it until I have filmed it. So I get this little stack going. But so this is Sucra Miniatures. She has an Etsy shop, but actually she has a website. And I think it's sucraminiatures.com, but you can search on that, and that may tell you right there. Yep, sucraminiatures.com. So, and I'll put that in the show notes, which are always on my blog when I get around to posting them. So, here it is. So, there's the side of it, little cupcake, and it has a rose gold little thing there. And there it is. How freaking cute is that? Like, I'm totally in love with it. So, so cute, the little stars. And I'm absolutely obsessed with stars and constellations and all of those things. There was a period of time in my life when I was seriously contemplating going into astrophysics. So anyway, love it, love it, love it. So now I can use it. So anyway, so she had that, and then around the same time, you may recall that, oh, how could you forget, that Houston was hit by Hurricane Harvey, and so there was tons of flooding. Lots and lots of people lost their homes, lost their belongings, had to evacuate, so on and so forth. And so one of the people that I was watching very closely was Diane from Suburban Stitcher, and she did have to evacuate. Luckily her home was fine, but there were, I think her house in her neighborhood sits up a little higher than everybody else's does, and so there were a lot of people in her community, in her neighborhood, that were flooded and had a lot of damage, etc. And so one of the things that she felt moved to do is to do a special set of yarn color. What am I trying to say? She released a yarn where a % of the proceeds would go directly to help those in her community and first responders, families, etc., that were in her community that were affected by Hurricane Harvey. And so she put up, I think, 2 sets of pre-orders for the yarn, and so I felt like, you know, it was something that I needed to do. 1, because the yarn is beautiful, and 2, because it was a good cause, and 3, because it was just helping to support Diane and her community. So here is the yarn, and it just came a little bit ago, and I can't even tell you like how beautiful this is. And this is my first skein of yarn from her. I have several of her bags, which you know if you've been watching for a while, but this is her first skein of yarn that I've ever bought, and it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. And so it's Suburban Stitcher. She does have an Etsy shop. She also has a podcast. And this is sock yarn. It's 75 merino, 25% nylon, 460 yards, 100 grams. And the name of the colorway is River's Edge. And that is actually the name of her neighborhood. and because they are literally on the river's edge. And so while there was a ton of flooding, you know, while it was raining, while the storms were hitting, etc., and that's what people were really focused on, you know, it was the after effects of that which affected Diane's neighborhood and a lot of people elsewhere in Houston, because they did have to release water from the dam, and you know, they had several places where the after effects were actually more damaging than the actual storm itself. So, but I was checking in on her constantly. She put up a lot of posts on Instagram, and it, you know, it made me feel better to know that she was okay, although they were very, you know, stressed about what was going on, and it's scary. So anyway, so this little piece of yarny goodness means a lot to me. So and I actually, so not in my last video, but in the one before that, the last sit down video that I did, I actually talked quite a bit about the hurricane, and rambled on and got a little emotional, and so I actually cut that part out. So anyway, it's beautiful, Diane. So those were really the only couple of things that I ordered that came in, but then I had a few other little things. So my little weekend retreat that I went on, our hostess for the weekend actually gifted me with, she gifted everyone with one of these little project holders, which these are awesome. So I've already got my memorabilia in there, but they're a fun little thing to use instead of using a project bag. I like that they're clear, you can see through them, and they're hard plastic, so nothing's getting crunched in there. And since I have beads and stuff, I just thought this will be the perfect thing, and it's purple, so it matches my fabric. So she gave us each one of these, and then I meant to bring the little card in here too, and I forgot it. Because she does scrapbooking, and so she did a neat little thing with my name on it. But then she also gifted us with these little things, which are from Blue Ribbon Designs, the lady that does that. I think her shop is Bird Girl. And so it's a, you cannot see that. Do I have a piece of paper? So that is a Stitcher square, so that you can see where to start. You know, you can count in if you're doing 1-inch borders, 2-inch borders, 3-inch borders. And starting is my nemesis. So, and it's funny because I was just like talking to her about how much I hate starting because I always screw it up. And it came in this beautiful Paris fabric, which I just love. Love, love. So many thanks to her for that. And also at the retreat, a friend of mine gifted me with this lovely thing, which I'm so excited I can finally use it. So it is the Coffee Quaker mug that has the model of Beth's Coffee Quaker design on here. I just love it. And so this is going to be so fun to drink my coffee out of, and it's a good, I mean, this is a big size. So nice. So thank you. I love it. What fun. And that was such a fun piece to stitch. So yeah, so I'm excited about that. And then I got a couple little birthday gifts this weekend. So one of them was in this pretty bag with these little metallic butterflies on it. And so I have a friend that beads, and she made me this beautiful thing. It is a beaded needle case. So the whole thing's beaded, and on the top it has this cool jewel. And then it's got a jewel on the bottom too. And then the top comes off, and it's just a regular wooden needle case that you can put your needles in. And I just thought that is so pretty. And I am not a beader, so I just find that fascinating. But that is just so pretty. I mean, it's this beautiful kind of, pearl color and these kind of champagne colored jewels. Just so pretty. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Looks like dragon scales. So like last weekend was in the HBO free preview weekend, and so Eric and I like binge watched all of the last Game of Thrones season because we hadn't seen it because we got rid of HBO. So yeah, now I know what everybody's talking about. Anyway, side note. And then my other friend gave me these cute, cute, cute counting pins. Look how cute, Black Cat. The little Scrabble tiles. I just think they are darling. Just darling. And they are from here. So cute. Thank you for that. Love it. Love it, love it. And then I was finally able to go to Quilt Guild. I haven't been in like 2 months because of the whole car situation. And so I was finally able to go, and this last month we had Lissa Alexander from Moda come and talk, and they gave us these little goodie bags, which I thought were just darling. And so I thought I'd show you what was in here. I haven't even opened it. I've just been saving it. So it had a little quilt sketchbook in it, and it's got all kinds of different patterned papers in there. Isn't that fun? We got a little mini charm pack of catnip fabric, which I love. And then this little cute little scissor sheath that says Moda on one side, and it has little polka dots on the other side. How cute is that? So that was very generous of Moda to send those little goodies along for us. So fun. And they're gonna do a little challenge that if you make something out of your little charm square and bring it in, then they're gonna do some voting, and there'll be a big prize for people. So I may do that. I say that, but I haven't sewn in how long, so don't hold your breath. Okay, so finishes, whips, Dark October, stash, coffee mug. What else? So just real quick, kind of, life update. I did get a car, so I now have a car. Yay. It is a new to me car. And I got that, I guess I've had it a couple of weeks. So got that. The car that I was borrowing went back to its owners. The one with no AC went back to its owners. So that was one less thing that I was fretting about. And then my old car, we sold this past week. So we are down to 2 cars that work. So, yay, my car has air conditioning and I can go to the places I want to go to and I don't have to keep canceling plans. So, yeah, that was a huge, huge weight off of my chest. My new boss has started. And so Friday was the official last day of my previous guy. I'm not even going to call him manager, guy. That was his official last day, thank goodness. He actually ended up staying a week later than he was supposed to, but now he's gone, so yay. So, my new boss has started. And some other little things with work have come up, like good things with work have come up, which has been great. And yeah, so couple things I wanted to talk about. So last night, while I was trying to get my Halloween garden finished, I was watching Mrs. Bensel, and she does this was her second Flosstube video, and so she does her Counselor's Corner at the end, and she talked a lot about that feeling of not belonging and that feeling like, you know, you're not good enough because of who you are and, you know, that sort of thing. And it was exactly the right time that I needed to hear that. And so if you have not had a chance to watch her videos, do go watch them. Like I said, this is her second video. I think she had some technical difficulties and somehow her first video got deleted. So there's just the second one up, but it's well worth watching. She is super, super sweet and has some beautiful stitching and finishes to share. But I really thought that the last little bit, her little Counselor's Corner that she does at the end, I got a lot out of it this time. So well worth a little watch. And one of the things that she talks about is about leaning into who you really are and really embracing who you are, because, you know, who you really are doesn't need to be hidden or stifled or, you know, tamped down because you feel like it might be not good enough or too much or what have you. And, you know, just leaning into it and really being yourself. So, on that note, I'm going to go ahead and do a little mini announcement, which I'm already freaking out about. Like, you can start to see that I'm already like, ah. So one of the things that I've been working on that is part of my Dark October plans is that I have been working on designing some cross stitch pieces, and I have one, my first design that is completely done. I would like to stitch it before I release it into the wild. But it is completely designed, and so yeah, so that's coming. I don't know when exactly, I don't know the specifics exactly, but yeah, so I've started designing. So and yeah, so anyway, that comes back to being afraid to put yourself out there, and really being who you are. Because what I am finding through the design process is it is really, in essence, who I am. So yeah, okay. So more to come on that, but that's your little sneak peek that I'm just going to slide in here, and I'll continue talking about other things. And so if you miss it, you miss it. Okay, so couple things that I am grateful for that I wanted to share. So the first one is that I have been listening to the podcast called Lore, Lore. I think I mentioned it last October. It's an excellent, excellent podcast, and it is all about dark and creepy, spooky, ghost story kind of things. And so the gentleman that does the podcast is an author who writes supernatural books. But so the podcast is really around kind of those, you know, those stories that have been passed down as lore, and where do things originate. And so his first episode, he talks about vampires, and you know that vampires are near and dear to my heart. I love vampire stuff. So yeah, so the first episode is great. They're relatively short, but so well worth it. They're just audio podcasts, so do give those a listen. I've got it, you know, mine subscribed to on iTunes, so it's perfect for this time of year. So I'm very grateful for that, because I love it. It, you know, feeds that little dark and creepy, you know, part of me that is probably like a 75% me. So anyway, and you know, just as an aside, so I think I mentioned that part of the reason I'm going to stitch Dracula's book cover for Halloween is because we watch that every year for the most part. And when Eric and I first started dating, you know, we spent a lot of time on the phone together talking. And so I think at some point we got on the subject of reading and books and what have you. And I was telling him, you know, that I really love vampires and, you know, Anne Rice, and I have her books, and I've met her several times and whatever. And so on our second or third date, he shows up at my door with a hardback copy of Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula, for me. So I was like, okay, well, now we're going to get married and live together forever and ever. So anyway. And if you've never read Bram Stoker's Dracula, go read it, because it's awesome. It's very interesting the way that it's written. But, okay, so number one things that I'm grateful for is Lore, the podcast. Go listen to it. It's perfect for those dark and chilly fall nights, unless you're in Texas, and then it's a 90-degree fall night. So, And the second thing that I am grateful for is Olivia B. So, and the reason that I am grateful for Olivia is because, you know, I've watched her videos for a while. She does not record all that often, and I am super behind, so some of it's me. But I watched a couple of her videos last night. I'm working on another one today, and I don't know, there's just something about her that I just love, and I love the pieces that she works on, and I love just how open and honest she is about everything, and yeah, so if you haven't watched her videos, go check her out, Olivia B on Flosstube, and yeah, so I'm super grateful for you, Olivia. All right, that might be it. I feel like it's not, though. I feel like there's something else I'm supposed to tell you, and I don't know what it is. Oh, I'm grateful for my Fitbit. So I got a little recognition award thing at work, and I used that money to get myself a Fitbit, and I'm so far off of my fitness goals and taking care of me goals and stuff for this year, but what I like about this is that it is a constant reminder to get up and move, and get up and take care of yourself, and get up and take a break, and that sort of thing. And I am learning all sorts of things that maybe I knew in the back of my mind, but hadn't ever been confronted with, like in black and white. Like, if you got more than 4 hours of sleep at night, that would be helpful. Things like that. So anyway, I guess I'm grateful also for my Fitbit, because it's making me more conscious and aware of things. And I am trying to take better care of myself, and I'm getting back in the swing of things with using my oils and taking my vitamins and all the good stuff. Sleep will come. It will come. So, okay. I think that's it. If it's not, oh right. So, giveaway. So I completely forgot until obviously just now about the giveaway. So I will do a little quick giveaway, who the winners are, winner is, because it's just one winner. Winner is at the end of this video. I will do a separate thing and tag that on there before I upload it. So thank you all so much for all of your comments about your favorite Halloween stitching. And so I've been going through those and looking at them, and Googling and looking at things that I need to have. So thanks for that. All right, that's it. And stay tuned for my announcement later this month. Okay. Cozyegg.cozyeggdesigns.com for all the show notes, all the links, all the stuff, all the places. Cozyegg on Instagram. All right. Bye, guys.